Yeah, Remco's here. Good evening. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Remco Bromlett as our chaplain to lead us in invocation.
Let's pray together. Our God in heaven, we thank you for the privilege of being able to bring all of our concerns to you in prayer. And we thank you for the never-ending abundance and availability of your grace that rests upon us in so many ways. And we pray that you pour it out upon us afresh tonight, on the mayor and city council and the city staff that is gathered here tonight with wisdom and insight and prudence in making the decisions that affect life in this city. Upon the city staff that serves the citizens on a day-to-day basis with strength and prudence and patience and insight in the form of protection on our police department and fire department, as well as courage and strength in enforcing law and serving the medical needs of our city, and on the city itself and all that live herein. Father, that you protect and watch over our well-being and our safety. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Milton City Council for Monday, June 3rd, 2013 to order. If our city clerk will please call the roll and make general announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Be happy to call roll for the June 3rd, 2013 regular meeting. I would like to remind those in attendance to please silence all cell phones at this time. Those in attendance this evening who would like to provide public comment either during the public hearing or during the call for public comment, you're required to complete a public comment card prior to speaking on an item. There is no public comment for consent agenda items or items under first presentation. Those called to speak will be taken in the order that the speaker cards were received by the city clerk prior to the beginning of tonight's meeting. All speakers will identify themselves by name, address, and organization, if applicable. The City Council may allow public comment on either an agenda item or general public comment from a representative of such an organized group or association, provided that the individual shall file a notarized affidavit that they have the authority to speak on behalf of said organization on a form provided by the city clerk prior to the agenda item being called. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, outbursts, or dialogue with any person speaking. Please show the same respect to the person speaking that you will expect to receive yourself. Anyone in violation will be asked to leave. As I call roll, please confirm your attendance this evening. Mayor Joe Lockwood?
Here.
Councilmember Karen Thurman?
Here.
Councilmember Matt Kuntz?
Here.
Councilmember Bill Lusk?
Here.
Councilmember Bert Hewitt?
Here.
Councilmember Joe Longoria?
Here.
Councilmember Lance Large?
Here.
Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here tonight, and we're excited to have some special visitors here, or guests. And if our city clerk will please sound the first item.
Our first item this evening is approval of meeting agenda. This is agenda item number 13131.
Okay. Do we have any changes or on the agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to add an executive session for land acquisition and litigation.
Okay. Do we have anything else? If not, do I have a motion for the agenda?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the meeting agenda with the addition of an executive session for litigation and land acquisition.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Thurman, second by Councilmember Large. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do have one, sir.
Okay. The next item is public comment. And public comment is a time for citizens to share information with the mayor and city council and to provide input and opinions on any matter that is not scheduled for its own public hearing during today's meeting. There's no discussion on items on the consent agenda or first presentation from the public or from council. Each citizen who chooses to participate in public comment must complete a comment card and submit it to the city clerk. Please remember this is not a time to engage the mayor or members of city council in conversation. When your name is called, please come forward and speak into the microphone, stating your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes for remarks. We could call our first public comment.
Our first speaker is Gordon Hunter.
Gordon Hunter, 14680 Wood Road, Milton, Georgia. And I was here earlier this afternoon for a couple of hours by an event that was of my own doing. I failed to stop completely going through a stop sign, and I made me do a lot of thinking about, it was down in Crabapple. I wanted to let you know where it is. It's Branyon Trace, which runs behind the old dog, east-west, and a four-way stop sign at let's see, look, some of the Trace, whatever the road is there, the intersection. That area was supposed to be a long time planning by Fulton County, which I had a part in some time ago as a citizen member of the Fulton County Citizens Committee on Transportation, and there were supposed to be plans made for a bypass around the Crabapple intersection. And that road that was developed back there has served as a bypass. And when it was first put back there, I don't believe it was a two-way stop instead of a four-way stop. And I don't know exactly when or how the decision was made by the city to make it a four-way stop. But as a four-way stop, it is really an impediment as a bypass. I use the road quite a bit. I know a lot of other citizens do. And as the land is laid out, it's wide open, vacant land. Sight distances are unlimited. And there is only one house on the crossroad in the far back. So it's not used very much, except for people coming out from the intersection turning either left or right. But the day that I was going through, there was no traffic there, no moving traffic. There was one car parked off the side of the road, and it happened to be a police car. I slowed down. I should have stopped, but I didn't. I rolled on through and got cited for a ticket. So the city of Milton will be $178 richer due to my thoughtlessness. But anyway, but my feeling is I just want to follow this a little bit further. I'm not trying to vindicate myself at all, but I think that road should be continued to be considered a bypass until the city actually creates a really thought out and well planned bypass for the future. And I understand there's some drawings and plans for that. But I just want to let you know that I think that, and I've been by there many times, and I've never, ever seen anybody make a complete stop. It's like a four-way stop out in the middle of the desert. There's nothing there. If the sight line's good, and you see no traffic, it was kind of, well, anyway, I rolled through it, and I know everybody else that I've seen does the same thing. Also in the city, we have a lot of three-way stops on a lot of roads that get really congested, especially during commute hour. That's due to the fact that we don't have a lot of left turn lanes, which would alleviate that. So when a lot of people come up to a three-way stop and there's 20 cars behind them and there's a big break in the traffic, a lot of people come up and they roll right on through. So that becomes a law enforcement question. And I would think that maybe the city could be a little bit more relaxing on their law enforcement in those particular cases, because it allows the smooth flow of traffic without traffic building up at some of those three-way stops. I'm thinking maybe Red Road as it intersects with Freemanville or Hopewell. It's one I travel quite frequently. Anyway, I just want to let you know that I think that the city needs to work on the Crabapple intersection pretty well, and that Branyon Road really does serve as a bypass for traffic going north and south. And I know there's probably reasons for why the four-way stop was put in, but I think the city ought to take a look at that. And if you remove the four-way stop, make it a two-way stop, I think you'll have a lot smoother flow of traffic back there. And if there's people complaining about heavy traffic or speeding traffic, that becomes a law enforcement issue on speeding. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you those comments, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. And as in public comment, we don't discuss it back and forth, but just to couple of comments in general. I'm sure our staff will look at that comment and those situations and could update us, as well as just and on the comment of the $178 on the ticket, just for clarification that unfortunately the state imposes several items on each ticket. So out of a $178 ticket, $78 approximately goes to the state, which the city has no control over. And also, for anyone that thinks that the city uses the police pull people over to make money, it doesn't even come anywhere near close to covering court costs. So, but anyways, that's all. I just wanted to make those comments to the public. Do we have any more public comment?
That's all, sir.
Okay. And thank you for your comments and constructive criticism. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Our first item, approval of the May 20th, 2013 regular city council meeting minutes. Agenda item number 13132. Next, approval of the acquisition of temporary construction easements and permanent drainage easements for the city of Milton from property owners Juan P. Necco, Elvira C. Necco, and Laura Glover Thatcher, William Bradford Thatcher, Jr. This is agenda item number 13133. Our third and final consent agenda item this evening, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Milton and Frontline Surveying and Mapping, Inc. for the Deerfield Park Topographic Survey. This is agenda item number 13134.
Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Councilmember Luss, second by Councilmember Hewitt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Next item we've got reports and presentations, and we're excited to have Councilmember Lusk recognize the Memorial Day contest finalists.
Each year for the past 6 years during the Memorial Week and prior to, we solicit contestants to write an essay based on the theme of the Memorial Day ceremony in that particular year. In past years, we've had entrants from Hopewell Middle School and Kings Ridge. This year, only Hopewell Middle School submitted essays, and as they have been in the past, all of these entrants have been students of Miss Judy Wording's 6th grade class. And I'm sorry, Miss Wording couldn't make it here this evening. But tonight we have with us 2 of the contestants. Byron Lee, who was this year's winner, and Amanda Leakley. Glad to have you with us. As we've done in the past, we've had our essay contest winners read their submittal. And I'd like to call Byron up to the podium, if he would now, and read his entry.
Freedom isn't free. Have you ever wondered what freedom is? How people earn it? First off, freedom is the state of not being constrained or controlled by someone or something. This important factor in life is not something people are naturally born with. It is, in fact, something we gain in life by the heroic men and women who risk their lives to proudly serve our country to allow people to be free. Hence, freedom is not free. The cost of freedom is not free because people cannot just go to the store and purchase their freedom, nor can they trade in a ton of gold for it. Freedom is earned from the blood, sweat, and tears of heroes that were and are willing to give their lives to fight and pay for our country's freedom. We commemorate Memorial Day every year. This holiday has been around for hundreds of years. However, most people do not know the true history behind it. Memorial Day is a very special day that observes and remembers the ones who died serving our country. Citizens of the U.S. celebrate the day on the last Monday of May every year. It was first celebrated on May 5th, 1866, in Waterloo, New York, which was later declared as the birthplace of Memorial Day by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Major General John A. Logan was the founder of Memorial Day. When people first celebrated it, they decorated graves of the soldiers who've died for us in the Civil War. The South states at first refused to celebrate Memorial Day on the same day as the North until after World War I. Initially, the holiday was named Decoration Day, and this was only meant to be for the death of people from the Civil War. However, it has changed over the course of many years. Today, we call this special day Memorial Day, and it is not only to celebrate the deaths of soldiers of Civil War, but also to remember all the people who fought in the wars. The main purpose of Memorial Day has been to remember the many lives that have been sacrificed to gain freedom for our country. Soldiers have been fighting for our freedom for many centuries, like the Revolutionary War against the British, when citizens of the U.S. could have the freedom of doing things without people controlling them about what they can do and cannot do. Courageous people choose to leave their families and go and fight for our countries, knowing that they might never see their wives and children ever again. We honor all great citizens who gave their lives to help keep our country free. No matter what they did, how much or how little they did, and when they did, on Memorial Day, we all remember and commemorate them. Citizens of the United States celebrate nowadays Memorial Day by closing businesses, setting flags at half-mast, parading the streets, closing down schools, and taking a moment of silence in the middle of the day to remember the soldiers who have passed away in wars. So next time you celebrate Memorial Day, just remember to honor the ones who have gave their lives willing to give the right to be free.
Great words from the sixth grader. In addition to Byron and Amanda, there were three other finalists, Maggie Martin, Rebecca Davis, and Lucy Robbie. If you would, council, go down now, and we'll have the photo up of our contestants.
So I'm going to take 3 shots and then count 3. Okay? If you like a perfect. Once, 2, 3. Let me get 2 more. Make sure I got it. 1, 2, 3. And 2. Thank you.
Okay, if we can move on to our first presentation.
Our first item is consideration of RZ 1311 to adopt a new use permit within Article 9, Division 5, miscellaneous uses, Section 641840, row houses, townhouses. Agenda item number 13135. Our first presentation item is consideration of RZ 1312 to amend Chapter 64 zoning ordinance, Article 1 in general, Section 64.1 definitions as it pertains to row houses, townhouses. Agenda item number 13136. Next, consideration of an ordinance to amend Chapter 4 alcoholic beverages, Section 4168 temporary special event license pouring permit to allow, during the term of a special event, open container consumption within the fixed boundaries of the physical area where the special event is authorized by licensed premises located entirely within that fixed boundary. Agenda item number 13137. Our fourth and final consent agenda item this evening is consideration of an ordinance of the City Council to authorize Fulton County to conduct election. This is agenda item number 13138.
Okay, do I have a motion for the second?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the first presentation as read by staff.
Second motion.
Okay. A motion by Councilmember Kuntz, second by Councilmember Luff. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to our public hearing, and if the city clerk will sound that out.
Consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Grand Champion Barbecue LLC located at 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 210, Milton, Georgia 3004. The applicant is Robert G. Owens III for consumption on premises malt beverages. This is agenda item number 13139. Ms. Stacy Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The applicant has met all the requirements of this ordinance, and staff recommends approval.
Okay. I'm going to say it's pretty obvious the applicant's here tonight, for sure. And do I have any questions? And if not, I'll entertain a motion in a second for approval.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consideration of the issuance of an alcohol beverage license to Grand Champion Barbecue LLC located at 12635 Crabapple Road, Suite 210, Milton, Georgia 30004 for the applicant Robert G. Owens III for consumption on premises malt beverages. Agenda item number 13139.
I'll second it.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Kuntz, second by Councilmember Thurman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. And I had a big takeout order, I think, last Saturday, and it was very good, as well as the leftovers the next few days. So wish you guys well. So I hear great things about you, and I've enjoyed your food. So, okay, we doesn't look like we have anything zoning on the zoning agenda, unfinished business. So we'll move on to new business.
Next item is consideration of a resolution appointing a member to the Historic Preservation Commission for the City of Milton by appointing a board member at large. This is agenda item number 13140, Mayor Joe Lockwood.
Okay, as many of you know, Patty Silva was my appointee on the Historic Preservation Committee, in which she is moving. So I've asked, and Abby Laboda, who has been involved and very passionate about Milton and historical things, to step in that position, and she has agreed. She's not here tonight. She's not feeling well. But anyway, so if anybody has any questions or whatever, I think probably most of you know Abby, but if anybody has any questions or not, if not, I'll ask for a motion. I know we've got two, but we'll go ahead and take a motion on this?
I'll move to approve Abby Laboda.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval of Abby Laboda to the Historical Preservation Committee from Councilmember Loss, second by Councilmember Hewitt. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, and I'll just have to swear her in at a later date. And our next item, this is swearing in or a consideration of a resolution appointing a member to the City of Milton Planning Commission by appointing a board member for District 2, Post 1, which is Councilmember Bless's appointee. If you want to say a couple words, or
Sure. About a month ago, my appointee, George Ragsdale, who was chairman of the Planning Commission, turned in his resignation based on the fact that he had sold his home and was moving out of the city. I've asked Terry Herr to replace him on the board. And Terry's been with us previously as chairman of the Design Review Board. I've worked with Terry before the City and Corporation on the Northwest Fulton Design Review Board. Terry's a principal, he's an architect and principal in the firm of Piper, O'Brien, and Herr in Alpharetta. Feel that he's eminently qualified to assume this position. And I'll nominate Terry Herr to represent District 2, Post 1.
Second.
okay. Got a motion by Councilmember Loss, second by Councilmember Kuntz for approval to nominate for the nomination of Terry Herr for Planning Commission for Councilmember Loss. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous also. Thank you. And then if the city clerk will please sound the final new business item.
Our final item, consideration of a professional services consulting agreement between the cities of Milton, Alpharetta, Sandy Springs, Roswell, and Comdex Consulting to provide project management for the unified radio system. This is agenda item number 13142. Mr. Chris Lagerblum.
Mayor and Council, this is a culmination of a request for proposals and a bid process that Sandy Springs facilitated through their procurement department on behalf of the 4 cities participating in what will become the North Fulton Radio Authority on July 1st. This is for project consulting, meaning this will be for the group that actually leads us from the actual plan design through implementation to make sure that what we have designed at this point actually can end up on the ground and work. In this RFP process, there were 3 respondents to the request for proposals. One in the middle of the process withdrew based upon the fact that I believe they bid on the wrong thing, and I believe they recognized that they did as well. And then there were 2 remaining that we worked through the rest of the process. There were 3 different committees that were set up to evaluate the different aspects of the proposals. We believe that by awarding Comdex Consulting the work in this process, number one, they were the highest qualified, highest selected to be qualified to perform the work, and number 2, they were the lowest bidder. So to have the one that's most qualified to do the work also be the least cost seemed to be a fairly straightforward decision. We're going to ask that you all ratify this. The City of Roswell ratified this agreement last week. Sandy Springs has as well, as has Alpharetta. So we're the last of the 4 to approve this. And once we do this, we'll move forward with bringing that radio system online. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Again, it was a Sandy Springs procurement that we participated in, so it did meet all the qualifications of Sandy Springs procurement process.
Okay. Any questions for city manager on that?
I think I read in there a cost for not to exceed that $30,000 figure. Is that?
You know, I should have brought that up because that's important. This contract is in the amount not to exceed $198,950.89. Milton's portion of that is, again, on the percentage basis of 15.21% as we've been in this whole process. So ours is a cost not to exceed $30,260.43. This is budgeted in the capital projects account.
Okay. Anybody else? Now I'll open up for a motion in a second.
Mayor, I'll move to approve a professional services consulting agreement between the cities of Milton, Alpharetta, Sandy Springs, Roswell, and Comdex Consulting to provide project management for the unified radio system, agenda item number 13-142.
Okay, I've got a motion for approval from Councilmember Luss, second by Councilmember Kuntz. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. We'll move into reports. I just want to say what a wonderful Memorial Day celebration and program we had, and obviously thanks to Councilmember Lusk and our staff and other council members that helped out, and volunteers and speakers, including our guys that were here tonight. But it was a great service, and I think everybody that was there really enjoyed it. So thank you guys all for that.
Might add that our attendance keeps going up every year, and I believe there are over 500 people that attended this year. It's a good turnout. The word's getting out.
The only thing behind the scenes, the big issue was, Roddy had his homing pigeons, and they had scheduled a flyover, and they were trying to make sure that the plane wasn't coming over about the time Roddy let the pigeons out. So that might not have been too good, but a lot of feathers. So, anyways, thank you guys. Anybody else have anything they want to report on? Okay, I'll move on to staff.
Just a couple of things, Council, before we end up in executive session tonight. I want to let you know that, believe it or not, the budget season is upon us again. I know, it just seems like we did this. We distributed budget calendars today, and it sticks us on a little bit of an accelerated process. Not accelerated compared to last year, a little bit of advanced process. We're starting a little bit earlier, and what I mean by a little bit earlier is like 2 weeks earlier. We still end up with a September adoption as we normally would, but just be mindful of the fact that the budget year is back upon us, and be thinking about, as we start to come with ideas and concepts, what's important to make it into this budget and what's not. So we'll move out of the audit and into the budget. If you've wondered, I just want to give you a quick update as well. If you've wondered what happened with our charter changes and then the other changes that we had to do with the charter, the four that the General Assembly had to make on our behalf have been made. That those pieces of legislation have been signed and have become acts by the governor. The rest of the changes, it was determined that we could modify those through our powers of home rule. And in order to modify the charter with your powers of home rule, it requires a systematic process of advertising over a period of 60 days with a couple of hearings in front of the council. You have to adopt them by ordinance, and then we have to notify the Secretary of State. So it's a bit of a different ordinance adoption than you're used to. You're used to 2 hearings that have to be at least 24 hours apart. We call them first presentation and unfinished business. This is going to be a little bit more convoluted than that because it has certain advertising requirements and certain time requirements that have to occur for them to be valid. So we will be working on those. I just don't want you to think that the rest of that stuff we talked about, if it didn't fit in those 4 buckets, just got ignored. It's in the process of working its way through. It's just going to take a little bit of time to work it through. Be plenty of opportunity to discuss what that looks like moving forward. I also want to bring up the fact that, and kind of just get your general sense here, I'm talking really kind of conceptually at this point, and not necessarily in detail, but we've struggled from time to time, as you all know, getting qualified people appointed to our boards and committees. And part of that may have been alleviated by our increasing the size of the district, so you have a bigger pool to choose from. Part of that might just be the nature of what it is, that everybody's so busy, it's hard to find good people that want to not only be busy all day and then come spend their evenings at City Hall. I've had our staff, and I've started to do some reviewing of it, do some research into different ways that communities, very high-performing communities, put people on their boards and committees, and whether or not they're selected by district, or whether or not they're selected by qualifications, or whether or not they're selected by just being in the city, but selected individually by council member. What I'm kind of looking for is a kind of a a head shake or a no shake as to whether or not you would be interested, because I'd like to bring forward potentially a proposal for a different way of doing what we're doing. And I'd like to bring that forward in July in the work session, not necessarily with a specific recommendation to say, guys, I think you got to do it this way. But I think there's some ways that we can enhance our current board and committee selection process that I think you all might like and might give you better latitude to reach out to those that you want on all the boards and committees when that time happens, and be able to pick them as opposed to saying you're on the wrong side of the street. So, if I could just get a general, unless you're just vehemently opposed to that, if you'd be open to a discussion in July, I'd like to bring that to you.
Certainly, I'll jump in there. You and I have discussed it several times, and one of our sister cities does it a little bit differently than we do. They solicit resumes from people who are qualified or might be qualified in different boards and committees out there. And maybe to your point, whether or not people have enough time, I think out of 32,000 people out here, I think we should be able to get a good selection from that bucket to professionally staff these different boards and committees. I think it would make life easier for our staff in facilitating these meetings, getting people who have some knowledge of the particular topic of each board and committee. Some of these are highly specialized. Planning, DRB, certainly BZA, I would think requires, Karen can speak to that, I think special knowledge of zoning appeals. But one thing that's concerned me is in the past with some of these boards and committees, they've not been able to raise a quorum for some of these meetings. I think it's a disservice to those applicants coming in front of these boards or committees to have their issue deferred for another 30 days or 60 days while a quorum can be raised. So it's like Johns Creek does it. They do solicit qualified entrants, and I've been approached here in the last week or so by 3 different people, and one's with us here tonight that really wants to serve on one of these boards or committees. And these are 3 people that I think are highly qualified, and I'd like to submit their name.
Okay.
Karen and Matt?
I agree. I think we want to make sure the purpose of the board is to make sure we have a well-qualified group that can listen to our residents and businesses and help us make the decisions we need to make. I think part of that is also training. I know when I served on the Fulton County BZA, we actually did have training we had to go to. I think that's, when I got on the board, I had 0 training at all, but they sent me to training before I ever got to hear cases, to make sure we understood what we were supposed to do and what we could and could not do. I think that's important. And they also paid us a small amount, and it wasn't much. It actually doubled in price once Tom Lowe came before us and needed a variance, but it went up from $75 to $150. But it was people looked at it more as a job, even though it wasn't paying much. Even if it was a $50, you viewed it differently when you were getting paid for it. It was a job, it was a responsibility, and I think whether or not we pay our people or not, we've got to make sure that they understand that when they commit, it is a responsibility, and they need to be properly trained for that responsibility, and then also they owe it to the residents to actually show up at the meetings.
Okay.
And Matt?
Karen took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I think they should get paid.
All right, anybody else?
I'm good with it. Looking into it.
Yeah, I think, looks like
Okay. I'll bring it forward then in July at the work.
It's a very different mindset when you're being paid for something than when you're not. And, you know, even if they're just paid $50 and, we can keep it keep it $48, it's less than $600 a year, or $50, and if you only have 11 meetings and you don't have to worry about 1099s, then it might be worth
Yes,
it.
Chris, I mean, is this all about the option to pay people that are sitting on boards, or is that just
No,
random
I'm taking that
comments come up?
as
'Cause
feedback, because I didn't come here saying that, suggesting we should pay them.
okay.
I'm just taking that as feedback tonight.
Yeah, because I mean, we got way too many qualified individuals living in Milton for us to have a problem getting people to participate. I know people want to participate, but I know people participate, but their, interest wanes if we're not doing a good job of running the board, or if they don't feel like their time is being, well used. So, payment is certainly an option to make that happen, but I think I would like to hear just whatever options you guys come up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all open to look at different
Yeah.
options. Okay. Anything else?
Good deal. That, well, I guess I should follow up just quickly, because we made the news last week with respect to the ambulance stuff. I probably should just update you on that. We're still in the process where Region 3 EMS Council is making a decision as to whether or not they open the zone. What that would mean if they open the zone is they would go to bid for either the same or a different ambulance provider. It could very well be a renegotiated contract with the current provider or a new provider, or they could keep the zone closed. There's nothing that is all of a sudden predetermined that the zone's going to open. There's a subcommittee that's been formed, and they're evaluating. We asked them to hold off on making a decision for 30 days, and that was so Sandy Springs could bring themselves up to speed with what was going on. The fix that they put in place, or the stopgap that Rural Metro put in place that's functioning at this point, is there's an ambulance now that is in part of the posting plan that's being held at Milton Station 43 in Hickory Flat, as well as one in Johns Creek. I say they're at those locations. They became part of the posting plan. And when you become part of a posting plan, that means you're a fluid unit, that as the situations change, you post in different places based upon the likelihood of a call for service. So if you drive by Station 43 and don't see an ambulance in it, that means that the system is performing where the ambulance has been drawn to a different location within the zone. That's by design and the way it's intended to work. But that will be where we are until, I believe it's the Tuesday, the last week of June is when the next time the EMS Region 3 Council will meet. We'll be there. At this point, our concerns have been put on the record. They've been made public. And we're working at making sure that when people need EMS transport, that we can put an ambulance in that location as quickly as we can. Keeping in mind, though, that the capabilities of our fire response are very high, and we've invested a lot of time, energy, and money into making sure that when our trained, qualified people get there, they can do just about anything for as long as they need to do it to have a positive patient outcome. So I don't want anybody to think that our folks are sitting there unable to do stuff. Sooner or later, you run out of time. You've got to get an ambulance there so that you can do other interventions at a hospital. So that's our position. It will remain our position. It's the position that the data supports. And now we just need to see if we can work with the current provider to enhance response times, or we'll seek the zone to go back to the market and see if somebody else can do it differently or better. Our first choice, obviously, is to try to work with what we have. There's some value in all of a sudden having a day where everybody who's here and used to this area, knows the roads, all of a sudden leaves town, and you drop the new ones in there. That's not necessarily advantageous to do that unless you have to. But we don't want to presuppose what the end game is at this point. We just want to make sure that we watch it, and that our concerns are noted, and that's where we are at this point. But if you have any questions about that, or about the little bit of coverage that it got last week, happy to answer them. If not, we're ready for executive session.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn into executive session?
I make a motion we move to executive session to discuss litigation and land acquisition.
Second motion.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hewitt, second from Councilmember Lusk, to move into executive session to discuss litigation and land acquisition. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
That's never a good sign. Calm before the storm. They're getting ready to take advantage of us. You need
Where's
to
the
move to
mayor?
re-adjourn?
I'll move to reconvene.
Oh, we don't need the mayor.
Reconvene.
Second, third.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Well, wait.
Reconvene?
Yeah, so there was a motion to reconvene.
See, you guys
and a
do
second.
need me.
I know, we're just like,
All right, so we've reconvened, we've had a motion and a second.
We have
and
a
we're
motion and a
voting.
second. You
No, we
need
haven't
to
All
vote
in
on that.
favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous that we reconvene. Now I'll open for a motion that we adjourn.
move to adjourn.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
We are adjourned.